All right. Hello. Testing, testing. One, two, and three. How's everybody? So, my name is April. So this is my first time going live or recording a live. Um, so I'm about to start my podcast today. I'm actually doing this. I'm walking out in faith. I'm gonna walk this thing out. So the name of my podcast is MidlepointX, and so just a brief. I kind of want to give a brief introduction of myself and what I hope to achieve here in this space. You know, so basically, what I want to talk about is us, Generation X. I'm sure you guys are aware of who Generation X is. So, Generation X is like those that were born in a certain time frame, right? No, hold on. For some reason, it's not giving me my notes. Hmm. The devil is a liar, and not today, Satan. I see you, but I don't. It be like that sometimes. He like to play around. He see I'm up here trying to do my thug dizzle, like he pulling up work files that I was looking for last week. The shenanigans, the shenanigans. I mean, like they know I don't like. It's so crazy. Uh, so if you guys could just bear with me, I should have had it pulled up, but because I'm just taking a leap of faith, I didn't want to procrastinate any longer. So that's been the thing with this. It's like I've been trying to get started with this podcast, but everything has been a procrastination. I've had people calling all day, I've had work emergencies, and today I said, you know what? It's enough planning. I've been planning and vision boarding for I think about 3 years, right? So I mean, after planning and I mean, I don't know how much bigger this vision board can get, right? Like I'm thinking it's gonna be like across the wall. I've like to be honest, my vision board showed me just how thoughts are because I promise you that I just kept coming up with thing after thing. I just coming up with reason after reason to not do what I'm called to do. So I just want everybody to know me as a person first while I search. I move around a lot. Like I'm a very busybody person. Like I'm always like moving. So I want you to get to know that part of me first. Um, I'm also very quick. I'm quick, but I'm not precise. If that makes sense, I'll move so quick that it'll get done. Now, are there some pieces missing in what I'm getting done? Maybe so. Maybe so. Um, I just really don't know what's going on with my documentation today. Well, I do know what's going on because I literally don't know why this is still here. Um, but I do want everybody to know that this this space is what I want people to understand. While we will talk sometimes, if that is something that people choose to talk about, we will mention Christ. But this is not, while it is spiritual based, this is not a place for you to come to debate. So the first thing I want to do is kind of set up some boundaries for when you come here. I I don't want to. I want to talk to you about scriptures. I don't want to debate about scriptures being created, and I don't want to debate with you about Um, in 1983, this was printed in Aramaic, and then it was translated, and this scriptures mean that. I don't care. I don't care. We don't care over here. So before you decide, I want you to listen before you decide to come over here and start talking about whatever it is that you people like to talk about. I don't care. I am not a intellectual of that sort, right? I'm not here to debate you, and don't come over here asking me to cite sources, and because I've tried to have open, meaningful discussions with people, and they'll start talking about this and that and that and this, right? Things that have no real bearing, like things that don't really mean anything, right? I don't feel like I should have to debate my salvation. And what I mean by debate my salvation, I know the state that I was in when God saved me. I know the mental state that I was in when God saved me. I know that the struggles that I was going through when God saved me. I don't care about anything that you have to say or that you learned in seminary school, because I learned these things in the wilderness, in the streets, and on my own. I learned who God was by the way that He showed up for me. I did not learn who God was through Sunday school. I did not learn who God was from family extension, because while God was a centerpiece for my family that I'm finding out later, that piece was never offered to me. And I know I'm not the only one who's experienced that, right? That piece of that whole ministry piece, that covering piece, that God piece, I did not have a covering. Fight me on it. Anybody in my family, if you want to fight me on it, I was never covered. Never. There's some people who to this day will admit, like, yeah, we did kind of do you dirty. Everybody did you dirty, but that's neither here nor there. Right. And the thing about me is I do have children. I do. They're all adults. They don't work here, so we don't need to discuss them. If you decide you want to discuss them, that's fine by me. You know, a lot of people want to discuss a lot of things, and it happens like that sometimes. But what we're not going to do, again, is I want to make this very, 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 very clear. I may be a little repetitive with this, but I don't want you coming over here with that bull crap. And those of you who do it, you know what I'm talking about. You want to come over here and you want to say, well, that's not biblical. That's not biblical. I've never heard of that in my life. That's not biblical. That's not. You know what else isn't biblical? Abuse, verbal, actual abuse. You know what else is not biblical? Mental manipulation, narcissism. You know what else is not biblical? Willful ignorance, weaponizing ignorance. Are we getting somewhere? You know what else is not biblical? Suffering, unnecessary suffering. So we're gonna moving forward, because we're gonna be discussing a lot of things, right? And a lot of things may not sound biblical, right? It may not suit your palate. And if it does not fit your palate and you don't like the way it tastes, I would prefer that you leave. I don't want you here. I want you here. I'm going to work very hard to make sure that this space is safe. You understand? I'm going to do everything to ensure that the people who come here get to express themselves, no matter what your race is, no matter what your religion is. While I personally do believe in Jesus Christ as my personal savior, what we are not going to do is come here and force beliefs. What we're not going to do, this is not a place for you to play church. We're not going to play church over here. We're not going to offer false coverings. We're not going to offer false humility. We're not, we're just not. We're not. We're not. So what I want everybody to kind of do is relax as I'm talking, because I'm gonna fuss first. I'm probably gonna fuss for about 20 minutes, because that is what I do. I talk crap. I talk a lot of crap. And the crazy part about it is I'm not even smart enough to talk the stuff that I talk. I am not smart at all, actually, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm not smart at all. I'm actually just wise, right? And I think my wisdom goes far enough. I've been through a lot and I've seen a lot, and then I'm realizing, like, hey, you know what? I'm not the only one. Hmm. 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 So I'm still trying to find my paper, and it's crazy because I had it all pulled up so that I would be able to just jump from point to point. Ooh. But then something really strange happened. It all just disappeared. I kid you guys not. It all just disappeared. Let me see if I can find it that way. I like that I'm not prepared because I think God wants this to be more of an organic space, because I'm telling you guys, I had a whole script. Like I was gonna just be like bam, 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 and then y'all was gonna be like, yay, this is the best thing I've ever heard. That was about the best thing I ever heard. So I'm gonna have to kind of just freestyle, forget it. So basically, again, my name is April, the Great Rambler, and I created this space. It's just for us, right? Our Gen X, us, Generation X, that little in between. We were born in between 1965 and 1980, and we grew up in a time where trauma was often ignored, right? We learned how to survive, but we were never like really taught how to heal. So this podcast came about because recently I was diagnosed with PTSD. It was really weird, like PTSD. So due to all the things that I grew up with and how I grew up, and there weren't a lot of conversations about mental health. There weren't safe spaces to talk about abuse. And for many, and especially men, and please, I'm not a mammy, I'm just stating the obvious. There wasn't permission to speak at all. So people basically stayed silent, right? We grew up, we built lives, we raised families while carrying things that we never had word for. And again, I know this experience personally. I was diagnosed with post traumatic stress disorder that is connected to my childhood trauma. So after hearing this in hindsight, so much of my life now starts to make sense. Like the anxiety I couldn't explain, the emotional weight I carried, the patterns I kept repeating. Um, that feeling of always being in survival mode. And it's crazy because what I thought was just who I was actually something that happened to me. But now, as I'm having these conversations with other people, and I am not a licensed professional, so let's put that out there. I'm just an average person having an experience. So please, please, please do not take this as any type of medical advice at all, not ever. And I don't want to argue about that either. So let's get that in the air. So it's three things that I don't care about: what you think, what you know, and who you know. I don't care. So again, now I did see, like, I did do some research, right? Because you have to. You don't want to just go on talking about stuff, right? So I did see some stuff about adverse childhood experiences and how it shows that many people from Generation X, especially us, that we carry high levels of like unresolved childhood trauma, including abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction. And for many of us, it didn't stay. And it didn't stay in the past, right? It followed us. I want to say me, but it followed us because I know I got some people out there that's going through this too. It followed us into our relationships, into our identity, into our faith, because trauma doesn't just affect how you feel. Sometimes it could even affect how you see God, right? It makes you ask questions like, where was God when this happened? Why didn't he stop it? Can I even trust him? Um, this podcast is really not about avoiding those questions. It's about facing them. It's about breaking the silence and telling the truth and creating space for real healing mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It's kind of like an online group. I don't have a name for it really, because I just like talking to people and I like to hear what they have to say because, you know, for me, healing meant doing the work, right? I had to understand the trauma. I had to get the help, but also I had to allow Christ into the places I use Jesus Christ, because I want to make sure I can make that clear, into the places that I used to keep hidden, right? I stopped pretending I'm okay. I learned how to be honest and have faith. And that's because the truth is, you can carry trauma and still believe. Like, you can struggle and still be held, right? You can be broken and still be healing. Two things can exist at once. So, whether you're part of Generation X or just someone trying to understand your own story or someone who has been silently carrying pain for years, this space is for you. This space is for you. You're not alone. Your story matters, and healing is possible. So this is the middle X point space, right? This is the middle X point space. That is the name of our podcast because this is ours. It's not just mine. It's all of ours. We just want to come talk. Generation X is a very unique generation, right? Um, Only because we had so much going on, right? We had like we were the people, the race, like the that were like in the in between. Growing up in the 70s and 80s was something so different. We were latchkey kids. We had less parental supervision. The divorce rates were rising. Children were often left alone with non-family caregivers. Like, I've heard so many stories of people saying, I had another family all the way down the street. My mom never knew where I was at. Um, Lack of sexual abuse education. We had no internet or resources for help. So we were ultimately placed in places where we were oftentimes vulnerable. Like, many Gen X children came home to empty houses after school. While this independence did create resilience, wink wink, and I'm holding up rabbit ears too for that whole resilience part, but it also created vulnerability, right? Blah, blah, blah. Without supervision or awareness, like about abuse, many children had no protection and no safe place to get it out. Sometimes that resurfaces later. A lot of us really do not understand how the trauma that is being painted as our childhood, it is normal, is actually one of the biggest reasons why we have a hard time trusting God, because we were in positions where we couldn't rely on anybody but ourselves. And everybody got to kind of dismiss what we had to say as, I just did the best I can, you know? I did the best I can. You know, everybody gets to say that, right? Well, I did the best I can. Now we're here. We're here. And who's doing the best they can? Who's doing the best they can? You are. You are. And as you're doing the best you can, people are still ignoring what you've been through. They're ignoring. Like I've literally had conversations with people where they're like, well, you know, I'm talking to my mom. I'm talking to my mom. And she said she don't remember that. Like I mean, like, it's so crazy because I don't think they lying. Cause y'all do remember that was like the whole crack era thing where they you know they said 2000 party was over with. You hear me? They was out there in 1980 already partying like it's 1999. So they already knew like we gonna kick it because in 2000 the party is over. So they already knew we was gonna be miserable. Like they was dancing and doing good lines the whole time. Like yeah, 2000, you know, party over with. So now here you and I are, it's 2000. And ain't no party for us. We trying to piece together broken childhoods. We're trying to figure out what happened to us. There was no definition for what happened to us. We're trying to figure out how to live and stay alive. We're trying to figure out what's going on and why is it going on. I'm trying to figure it out for real, because I really just want to talk to other people. I want other people to tell me, did you see that? Or was I there by myself? And what I'm finding out is, I wasn't there by myself. Other people were there too. They saw it. They saw it too. And I kind of want this, I want us to come together because I want to hear about it. Tell me about it. Talk to me. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it with no stigma. Let's talk about it with no shame. Let's tell everybody that Christ is close to the brokenhearted and you can heal and you don't have to hide what you've been through. You don't have to look holy. You don't have to just let's talk about it. Because I'm telling you, if God didn't come get me, wasn't nobody else coming. I was like, look, I was just out there. I was out there. Look, I was out there. Like, who you gonna call? I was 11, and I really did need the Ghostbusters. It is because my parents weren't coming. So I want everybody to know this isn't a place for trauma dumping, because that's not what we not gonna trauma dump. We not, because we're not victims, but we do need recognition. Because now that is why I call us, this podcast is Middle Point X. We're at the middle point. We're at the middle point. Something has to give. We're boiling over. We too young to be old and too old to be young. We're just right here. The taxes we pay carries the old and it carries the young. We're literally damaged, mentally ill, untreated, wounded, bleeding, crying Christians or non-Christian or Muslims, whatever you are, black, white, whatever you are, and we're here trying our best to keep going, just like when we were kids. Just like, why do we have to keep going? I don't care if you're gay, I don't care if you're trans. Why should we have to keep going? Who's going to address this? Who's going to talk to us? Who's going to tell us that we were failed? We were failed. Nobody coddled us. Nobody told us anything. Nobody loved us. We didn't pick cotton, but we might as well have. We suffered. We were put, a lot of us are childish. I hear that a lot. Oh, he's childish. She's childish. They're so childish because we never had a childhood. I know people, teenage pregnancies affected us. We were forced into motherhood. Mm-hmm. That happened to us. People, I've heard stories of men who were little boys that had to go out and get food for the family because their father was not going to feed them. And I don't want to play a blame game because their mother was not going to feed them either. There are people who come from where there are two parents in a household and ain't neither one of them nothing. Everybody, like, we have so many stories of how bad we suffered and nobody paid attention to us. It was like they were just experimenting on us. So that is my introduction. So I will be back next week, Monday, in the evening, because I have to work. I do have a job, unfortunately. I'm one of those people. I have to do that. That's fine. So I'll be back Monday night at about 5. If you get the opportunity, please share me out. And I'm going to start dropping links and inviting people because I do want to have that opportunity to talk to others. So I got a really good topic for next week, right? And I want to talk about the silent generation of survivors and why so many Gen X men experience childhood actual abuse. Abuse. Yeah. I want to talk about that elephant. I want to talk about how, and I don't want to talk about, oh, he's gay now, because that is so not for real. It's just another cover that people like to use. We're not going to start calling people. We're not going to start saying that men are gay or this happened or that happened, because a lot of these men are hypersexual. And while you may think it's okay and they may call it a freak, it's actually their way of dealing with their trauma and what has happened to them. So, everyone, I will see you next week. And if you tuned in, if you shared me out, whatever you do, thank you. MidlepointX. Meet you there.